If someone had told you in 1860 that the United States was only months away from becoming a battlefield where fathers would fight sons, brothers would aim rifles at brothers, and neighbors who had shared meals for years would soon march toward each other under different flags, many would have laughed. America looked strong from the outside. Cities in the north were growing faster than ever. Railroads stretched across the land. New inventions promised a brighter future. Cotton plantations in the south generated enormous wealth, and politicians still spoke proudly of one united nation. But beneath that confidence, something dangerous had been growing for decades. It wasn't a foreign army waiting beyond the coastline. It wasn't an invading empire. The greatest threat to America was America itself. Every conversation about slavery became more bitter. Every election divided the country a little further. Every compromise bought a little more time, but never solved the real problem. The question was no longer whether the nation disagreed. The question was whether it could survive those disagreements. Slavery sat at the center of nearly every political argument. In the southern states, millions of enslaved African Americans were forced to work on plantations that fueled the economy through cotton production. Many Southern leaders believed slavery was essential to their survival and way of life. In the North, opposition to slavery was steadily growing. Some demanded its complete abolition on moral grounds, while others feared its expansion into new territories would change the future of the nation forever. Congress struggled year after year to hold the Union together through compromises, but every agreement seemed to satisfy no one for very long. Then came the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. Instead of settling the issue, it allowed settlers to decide for themselves whether slavery would be permitted. What followed was not peaceful democracy, but bloodshed. Armed groups poured into Kansas, determined to influence the vote by force. Homes were burned. Innocent people were killed. Newspapers called the territory Bleeding Kansas. It was a warning of something much larger approaching. Americans had begun killing Americans long before the Civil War officially started. One man became a symbol of the nation's growing rage. His name was John Brown. Convinced that slavery could only be destroyed through violence, he led attacks against pro-slavery settlers and later attempted to seize a federal arsenal at Harper's Ferry in 1859. Brown believed enslaved people would rise up and join him in a massive rebellion. They did not. Instead, he was captured by U.S. Marines led by Colonel Robert E. Lee, tried for treason, and executed. To many in the South, John Brown was proof that the North wanted to destroy their society. To many abolitionists, he became a martyr willing to die for freedom. America was no longer debating ideas. It was creating heroes and villains depending on which side of the Mason-Dixon line you lived. Then came the presidential election of 1860. A lawyer from Illinois named Abraham Lincoln, representing the Republican Party, won the presidency without carrying a single Southern state. Lincoln did not initially call for the immediate abolition of slavery everywhere, but he strongly opposed its expansion into new territories. For many Southern leaders, that was enough. They believed their future inside the Union was over. Before Lincoln had even taken office, South Carolina announced it was leaving the United States. Other Southern states quickly followed: Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas. Together, they formed a new nation called the Confederate States of America and elected Jefferson Davis as their president. To them, secession was their constitutional right. To Lincoln, there was no legal way for states to simply leave the Union. He believed the United States was permanent and indivisible. The country now had two governments claiming authority over the same land. Citizens had to choose where their loyalty belonged. Soldiers who had worn the same uniform suddenly resigned to fight for opposite sides. Families were divided overnight. Churches split. Friendships ended. The nation held its breath, wondering who would make the first move. That moment came at Charleston Harbor in South Carolina. There, surrounded by Confederate forces, stood Fort Sumter, a United States military fort commanded by Major Robert Anderson. Supplies inside the fort were running dangerously low. Confederate leaders demanded its surrender. Anderson refused. Before sunrise on April 12, 1861, Confederate artillery opened fire. Cannonballs screamed across the harbor, crashing into the brick walls of the fort. The bombardment lasted more than 30 hours. Smoke filled the sky as explosions echoed over the water. Although remarkably few casualties occurred during the battle itself, The symbolic impact was enormous. The first shots of the American Civil War had been fired. There was no turning back. News spread across the country with incredible speed. Church bells rang. Newspapers printed special editions. Crowds gathered in city streets reading headlines aloud. President Lincoln immediately called for 75,000 volunteers to put down what he described as a rebellion. His announcement had the opposite effect in several southern states. Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina also left the Union and joined the Confederacy. What had begun as a political crisis was now a full-scale civil war. Men from farms, workshops, schools, law offices, and factories rushed to enlist. Many believed the fighting would be over within weeks. Young soldiers proudly marched away wearing freshly issued uniforms while bands played patriotic songs through cheering crowds. Mothers waved goodbye with forced smiles. Sweethearts promised to wait. Few imagined how long the war would last or how much blood would stain American soil before it ended. Neither side fully understood what modern warfare would become. Railroads could move entire armies in days. Telegraph lines carried battlefield reports almost instantly. Rifled muskets made charging across open ground far deadlier than in previous generations. Old military tactics would collide with new technology, producing casualties on a scale America had never experienced. The war that so many expected to end by Christmas would instead become the deadliest conflict in the nation's history. As thousands of volunteers gathered into camps, one question echoed through both armies. Who was right? Was the South fighting to defend its rights and independence? Or was the North fighting to preserve the Union and ultimately end slavery? The answer depended entirely on where you stood. But one truth could no longer be denied. America had turned against itself, and the road ahead would be written not in speeches or political debates, but in smoke, steel, sacrifice, and the lives of hundreds of thousands of ordinary people who would soon discover that the cost of civil war is always far greater than anyone imagines.